Good evening, Chair. Calls to order Legislative Session Day 26-015. I'd ask you to please join us for standing with the pledge, followed by the opening prayer by Councilmember Bennett. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Lord, make us an instrument for your peace. Where there is hatred, let us bring love. Where there is injury, let us bring healing. Where there is despair, let us bring hope. And where there is sadness, let us bring joy. Grant that we seek to console rather than to be consoled, that we seek understanding of others rather than to be understood, that we seek to love rather than to be loved. For it is when we give we receive, and it is when we forgive that we are forgiven. Help us to be and do these simple things. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Agenda item number 4, presentation of proclamations. We have none. Consideration of petitions, applications, appointments, and nominations. We have none.
Council President, I make a motion to approve the County Executive's appointment of Bang Tam Miller to the school board.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve Ms. Miller to the school board. Is there any discussion? Mr. Jan Giordano.
Council President, it's important that we fill the vacancy of the Board of Education, and Bang Tam Miller is extremely familiar with the school system, having served HCPS for 26 years as a teacher, mentor, recruiter, assistant principal, accountability coordinator for testing, HR specialist handling contracts and labor relations. She also holds a master's plus 30, essentially the equivalent of 2 master's degrees, and proudly represents Harford County throughout her career in education. After reading the glowing support from both Councilman Bennett and Councilwoman Roberts this afternoon, there's no reason we should not be confirmed tonight. Confirming her now will allow her to participate in discussions regarding the selection of our next superintendent. The superintendent vote is expected to take place next Tuesday before we would normally be voting on Bang Tam's appointment. That is why I decided to make this motion to approve her tonight. Again, she has the support of Councilman Bennett, Councilwoman Roberts, Councilman Riley, and myself. Let's move this forward and allow the Board of Education to have a full board. Thank you.
So with that said, as I spoke with Ms. Miller this afternoon, assured her that a nomination would go through 100%, that every council member would support her. Her reputation stands alone. My issue for not putting it on the agenda tonight is that we have rules and procedures that we follow when we're putting the agenda together. The deadline for the agenda was Thursday. And the county executive knows that. He could have easily sent the motion over yesterday to give us a little more time to move forward with it. But if it's the council's will to move it forward, I have no problem with it. It takes one more thing off of next week's agenda.
I'll move forward.
Ms. Robert?
Yeah, I'm good with moving forward. I just actually saw Bangton. We were at an activity this afternoon, and we were talking about the appointment, and she advised me that she was going to come in person next week that she had received a call that was the day for it. So I'm sure she wouldn't mind being appointed a little earlier. She knows I am a big supporter of hers. I think she is what I've been saying should be on the board because of her education background. She's been a principal. She knows how to budget money from being a principal. So she is one of the most perfect candidates for that position.
No, I couldn't agree more. Mr. Bennett?
I also support Ms. Miller and think she'll do a fantastic job on the board. I just wish she had the opportunity to be in the room and to be recognized in a public space. I think in doing it in this manner, without, I'm assuming without reaching out to her to let her know so that she would have the opportunity to be here, it robs her of that moment, and I think that's disappointing. But all that being said, I support her nomination.
I couldn't agree more. Anyone else? Ms. Imhoff?
I've also had the opportunity to meet with Ms. Miller over the last year. She's an engaged, active member of the community. She is fully qualified for this role and then some. And I think she's, a fantastic choice. I am a little upset because she does show up for everything, so I think given the opportunity, she would have been here tonight. But I fully support her on the Board of Ed.
And I'm sure that once she's aware of what's happening this evening, she will be here next week. And I will absolutely call and ask her to come as I did today. So, anyone else? Ms. Dixon?
Mr. President?
Aye.
Mrs. Robert?
Aye.
Mrs. Imhoff?
Aye.
Mr. Giangiordano?
Aye.
Mr. Riley?
Aye.
Mr. Bennett?
Aye.
There being 6 votes in the affirmative and 1 absent, the motion is approved. And again, we'll reach out to Ms. Miller. Maybe someone can text her now
I did.
and let her know, so.
I already did.
Okay, good.
I said, are you listening?
Well, congratulations.
Agenda number 6, special presentations, we have none. 7, approval of minutes, fiscal year 27 budget work session minutes, public hearing May 5th, 2026, legislative day 25/014, May 5th, 2026. Are there any corrections to the minutes? There being no corrections, the minutes stand approved. 8, introduction and consideration of resolutions, we have none. 9, Mr. Giangiordano, please read bills 26010 and 26011 into the record for introduction.
Bill 26-010, low SAP amendment, service benefits as introduced by Council President Vincenti and council members Robert, Imhoff, Boyle Saddles, Bennett, Riley, and Giangiordano. An act to repeal and reenact with amendments subsection A and subsection C of section 28-2, service benefits of Article 1, pensions of Chapter 28, fire, ambulance, and rescue organizations of the Harford County Code as amended to adjust the benefit amount and generally relating to fire, ambulance, and rescue organizations. Public hearing scheduled on Tuesday, June 9th, 2026 at 6 p.m. in these council chambers. Bill 26-011, zoning data centers as introduced by Council President Vincenti at the request of the county executive. An act to add new subsection J to section 267-8, zoning certificates of Article 2, administration and enforcement of Part 1, standards of Chapter 267, zoning of the Harford County Code as amended to expressly prohibit the permitted use of data centers in any zoning district and generally related to zoning. Public hearing scheduled on Tuesday, June 9th, 2026 at 6 p.m. in these council chambers.
Thank you. 10, introduction and consideration of amendments. Amendments to Bill 26005. May I have a motion?
Council President, I move to approve amendments 1 and 2 to Bill 26-005.
May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett. It's been moved and seconded to approve amendments to Bill 26005. Is there any discussion? Mr. Bennett?
Mr. President, I'm in full support of Bill 26-011 that Councilman Giangiordano just read into the record. That being said, the moratorium bill will ensure that there's full coverage between now and when that bill takes effect. As we just said, Bill 26-011 will have its public hearing June 9th, which means the absolute soonest that bill could be voted on is June 9th, which means the effective ban on data centers won't take effect until sometime in August. So by continuing to have the moratorium, when that passes, it will give us full coverage to allow nothing to move forward from now until then. So that's why continuing with both bills side by side is so important. The county executive is sealing the jar, and we're making sure that jar is airtight, so that nothing can happen between now and then.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett. Mr. Giangiordano?
I also agree with Councilman Bennett. We move it from 90 days, himself and myself and a couple others, I think, to 180 days. So glad to have this other bill comes in that will sit over top of that and then do away with that. But we want to make sure that we have proper coverage so that the new bill hopefully gets approved, and we'll move forward with that. So we do need to have this in place for the short period of time. So, thank you, Council President.
Anyone else? Ms. Dixon?
Mr. President.
Aye.
Mrs. Robert.
Aye.
Mrs. Imhoff.
Aye.
Mr. Giangiordano.
Aye.
Mr. Riley.
Aye.
Mr. Bennett.
Aye.
There being 6 votes in the affirmative, 1 absent, amendments 1 and 2 to Bill 26005 are hereby approved. 11, call for final reading of bills. Bill 26-003, appropriation special pays. May I have a motion?
Council President, I move to approve Bill 26-003.
May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Riley. It's moved and seconded to approve Bill 26003. Is there any discussion? Ms. Dixon?
Mr. President.
Aye.
Mrs. Imhoff. Or Mrs. Robert.
Aye.
Mrs. Imhoff.
Aye.
Mr. Giangiordano.
Aye.
Mr. Riley. Mrs. Bulsato. Mr. Bennett.
Aye.
Throwing me off.
Are you okay?
We'll talk about that later.
The 6 votes in the affirmative, 1 absent. Bill 26003 is hereby approved. Enrollment of bills. Bill 26003 serves as the text finally passed. 13, unfinished business, we have none. 14, new business, we have none. 15, comments and input from attending citizens. Ms. Dixon, do we have anyone signed up?
We do, Mr. President. We have 21, I believe, this evening.
Okay, just so that everyone's on the same page, 21, 3 minutes apiece. Please be respectful of one another, and please recognize that we recognize the person at the podium, no one else.
Wilbur Pierce, followed by Greg Tillman and Matthew Brown.
Good evening, sir. Name and zip code, please, for the record.
Wilbur Brown Pierce, 21001. Good evening, I get my notes straight here. I'm Wilbur Brown Pierce. I'm here to share my 3 events of a week ago, good and bad. My first was a visit to Dr. Bossi for an injection in my right hip to relieve chronic pain. That went very well. Next, I came back home and picked up Betty. We drove to Jarrettsville for a nice lunch at the creamery and then on to the furniture store. We met the co-owner who we had seen on TV. He did a great job on TV, and bought a lounge chair to replace the one that was dilapidated. That was good news. Then we drove home. Bad news. As we turned into our driveway, we saw a strange car parked in the middle of our driveway. And then off in the distance, behind our barn, we saw a trespasser walking toward us. What's going on? Who knows? We do not like people snooping around our property, especially when they think it's okay. I invited the trespasser into our home and found she was a 3P person on a mission. She had locked her car in the middle of our driveway and snooped around, later to find out that her cell phone was dead and she couldn't get in her car to return home. We invited her into our house and then chatted a minute, and then I returned her to her property. I haven't heard anything from the snooper since. You may not remember, but years ago, we had an unwanted person which held me hostage. They shot through our dining room window to a deputy outside. They shot through our kitchen window to a deputy behind our barn. We don't like unwanted people on our property. Over a year ago, I gathered a group of volunteers and a dumpster from Maryland Portable Concrete. We cleaned up a home in our community. Greg White donated a dumpster, and I paid the outrageous tipping fees. Later, a neighbor asked me if I would do the same thing for him. I said, sorta. I volunteered my small dump trailer. He filled it, and we took it to Scarborough Fill to find out that my trailer exceeded 8 feet long and was a commercial vehicle, not a residential vehicle. Instead of paying the $11, I had to pay the $59.67. One more load for him, and then 1 or 2 loads for his brother, who lives down the road at the end of the cemetery. That's crazy that we have to go so far and to pay to keep our community clean. I'm getting there. It seems that most of our politicians, wannabes, are running against a lot, and not for good. Most of our problems are the result of short-sighted legislation in the past.
Mr. Pierce, I hate to do it, but I gotta cut you off.
Okay?
Can
Thank
you give your comments to Ms. Dixon?
Yes, okay.
All right, and we'll disperse them amongst council members. Mr. Pierce,
Yes,
I understand your brother-in-law passed away.
yes, he did. Fred, my brother-in-law,
My condolences.
he was 93, lived in the Perryman area his entire life. He was also my best man. He was my sister's husband and my wife's brother. So we were pretty well connected. Thank you for bringing that up.
I was like, wait a minute.
Good evening, sir. Name and zip code, please.
Craig Tillman, 21014. I'll just make it brief. I've lived in Harford County for 63 years, all my life. And over the last 8-10 years, I've seen Harford County transform into something I never thought it would. There's a huge amount of high-density, low-income housing that's been pouring into our county. And I think it's drawing down on the quality, it's going to draw down on the quality of life ultimately for a lot of our residents. And what's frustrating is I think that it's, these types of projects are coming through with a lot of money behind them. And I'm concerned that our local politicians on the receiving end of a lot of this money, by the tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars, to push through from developers and their companies and their associates to push through this high-density housing that's hurting our county and really going to take a devastating effect on our county down the road in perpetuity. And I think our local representatives are seeing the short-term gain of this payout or buyout to be able to accommodate these developers and everybody else to let this happen to our county, foregoing the quality of life for all of their neighbors. It's very frustrating. I've heard from one local politician recently, that said, you know, when we get government money, so much of that money has to be, a percentage has to go toward low-income, high-density housing. Well, I think we just should draw the line because it's not helping our county, the quality of our life. And what scares me more than anything, that's going to be pennies compared to what's coming down the pike. These data center projects, I know it's coming up in the future, but the Google money, the Microsoft money, Oracle, OpenAI, this is hundreds of billions of dollars they're going to pass down through our communities, through our politicians, to change the building codes to make sure that this happens in our backyards. And this is going to be devastating for all of us. I don't know if you guys have looked at what these data centers do. It's a 24-hour, round-the-clock, 7-day-a-week, loud humming noise with billowing black smoke right in the backyards of residential people that live in this county. And our local representatives have already shown us that they're okay with taking money, tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands from local developers to ruin our county. And when this huge amount of money, this is a huge fight here. This election cycle is super hot right now. It's super hot because these politicians that are going to be, whoever's elected, county executive, president, council, all these guys on the council, they're going to be fighting like cats and dogs to make sure they change the building code so these things can be in our backyards. If you don't pay attention to this, we only have ourselves to blame, all right? So wake up, because it's coming down. This is pennies on the dollar. All the money that these guys have taken from these developers, local
Mr. Tillman,
developers.
please bring your comments to a close.
All right, all these developers, it's pennies
Thank
on
you,
the dollar
sir.
compared to the
Thank
data
you.
centers. It's coming.
Thank you,
You're welcome, Pat.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Good evening, sir. Name and zip code, please.
Matthew Brown, 21015. Well, that gentleman's not wrong. It is a hot
Mr. Brown, hold up just a minute. Please, one speaker. Go ahead, Mr. Brown.
That gentleman's not wrong. It is a hot time, especially in these politics. I'm one of the candidates running for county executive, and one of the things I want to speak on right now is last week there was the Havity Grace election, and for a community that has about 12,000 members, only 1,400 showed up to vote. Their civic duty, their greatest ability to impact the quality of their life, they did not take the time to do so. 11%, roughly 12. And seeing people here is great, because we've been unified on this topic when it comes to the data centers and preserving the identity of Harford County. But we need that level of energy consistently. We need that participation at all times. And I'm not asking for everyone to show up every weekly council meeting. Not everyone's crazy like that. That's just me. The fact of the matter is that there's so many things that happen in our local communities that are directly in control of us. We have the ability to vote on the school board. We have the ability to vote on the council. We have the ability to adjust amendments, referendums, etc. That's the power of local government. And in this election cycle, the one thing I'm focusing on more than anything is mobilization. We have 260,000 people who live in this county, roughly 200,000 voters, and in the last couple election cycles, we've barely managed to hit 50%. People will scream into the void, hide behind anonymous voices, and not come here or go to the ballot box and actually make their voices heard. Screaming from the top of the mountain does not make you courageous, it makes you crazy. I believe that people right now have a legitimate distrust of their council, a legitimate trust of their government, because it feels like their voices aren't being heard. But that ultimately comes down to their own action. Come to the polls, reach out to your councilmen. They're human too. And the only way to really have correct and trusted progress is you have to be part of the system, part of the message. And I understand that in modern times and the age of social media, stories, framing, optics, everything makes it hard to really understand what's going on. And sifting through documents of government, let me tell you, it's boring to some, enjoyable by others. And if you need someone to, articulate what they all mean, that's what you have representatives for. That's their job. They chose to be here. They chose to be elected, and they will choose to give you the information that you need. I believe ultimately in this election cycle, regardless who wins, I want at least 75% of the voter turnout. Everyone make their voices heard. I can't expect every single one to show up to the polls, but that's why you have absentee ballots, mail-in ballots. You have all the means to really make your voices heard. Even if I don't win, I will still be here because I have a passion for here. And I hope you guys, from seeing everyone here, you guys clearly have that passion. Just make it documented, make it heard. Be the face of Harford County you really want to believe, because that's what I'm representing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brown.
Ann Blocker, followed by Diane Alvarez and Jeff Beck.
Good evening, ma'am. Name and zip code, please.
Excuse me, Ann Blocker, 21085. My name's Ann Blocker. I emphatically object to the siting of a data center on Mountain Branch Golf Course or in any other green space in Harford County, particularly those spaces near residential communities, farms, forests, parks, or any land area in Harford County that drains into the Chesapeake Bay. I taught third grade for 25 years. During one of our integrated units, titled Invention and Innovation. We defined technology as the practical application of scientific knowledge to solve real-world problems and improve human welfare. Simply said, it's how humans use knowledge to make life simpler and better. What real-world problems will be solved by the construction of a hyperscale AI data center on beautiful rural land adjacent to homes, parks, farms, streams, and forested land? Homelessness? Inequality? Hunger? Will it keep our neighborhoods safer or cleaner? More pleasurable? Will it mitigate climate change, environmental degradation, public health risks? Will it relieve economic uncertainty for families in our county? How do hyperscale data centers like the one being proposed at Mountain Branch improve human welfare? They don't. They increase the wealth and power of the billionaires who own the AI industry and the greedy, heartless landowners. I'm a gardener. I'm happiest with my hands in the soil, and when the only sounds I hear are the birds and the bees and the leaves as the wind rustles them through the trees, and maybe an occasional lawnmower. AI is powerful, inscrutable, and uncontrollable. Are we willing to allow this technology to threaten our human experience, our solace? Our federal government will have us believe that data centers and AI are critical to national security and global dominance. Some of our local leaders might believe, perhaps based on a propaganda website authored by the owners of Mountain Branch Golf Course, that data centers will bring huge economic benefits to the state or the county and generate zero impact on the quality of life of residents in Harford County. But as we have seen with our own eyes and heard with our own ears, our leaders lie. So do big corporations, so does AI, so do websites. And they all lie with impunity. Will our lives be simpler and better with a hyperscale data center in our county? No. They will be worse. Data centers are loud and intrusive. They are gluttonous in their use of water, power, and land. And I know they're not here, but to the owners of Mountain Branch,
Ms. Blocker, please bring your comments to a close.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good evening, ma'am. Name and zip.
Diane Alvarez, 21078. I want to say thank you to Tony G, Delegate Tony G, for making this unnecessary, because I came here to speak on the Board of Education appointment, and I now no longer have to do that. Thank you very much to you and all the board members who supported getting our position filled, which has been vacant for way too long. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, sir. Name and zip.
Jeffrey Beck, 21085, Jobbatown. This council, good evening, by the way. Nice to be here again. I missed you last week. That was on me, not you. This council's been given a gift. You guys have a huge decision in front of you. It's going to greatly influence not only your own political careers, but the entirety of Harford County for generations to come. Prior councils and prior administrations have been faced with similar crossroads, and they failed. I hope that you guys don't fail. Ridgely's Reserve is just one example down in Jobbatown. 5 years later, still polluting the Foster Branch and the Gunpowder River. And that's just one residential development. Imagine the damage to the environment that a data center on 273 acres potentially could do. You guys have that gift. The council has many functions, but your two biggest functions are budget oversight and zoning. Don't worry about the budget. I'll be here tomorrow too. Zoning oversight and zoning regulations, second biggest thing you guys have any control over, and a big amount of control over. Keep the data centers out of Harford County by any means necessary. Do it the right way, do it legally, but by any means necessary. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Beck.
Delegate Archon, followed by Brian Tawney and Brian Cornell.
Hey, y'all.
Good evening.
Good evening. Good to be here with you guys. Delegate Lauren Arkin, 7B, Harford County. My zip code's 21111. For those of you who want to stalk me, don't. I'm well armed. Okay, I'm super tickled because I don't have to say anything about the school board, but it was so painful for the last few months. But I'm glad we got somebody on there who's awesome, that everybody agrees is awesome. Can't wait to see what happens with our superintendent. Interview process that we're in the middle of. I am on the community board for that as well. So thank you very much for giving us a full deck to play with. I really appreciate that. And stay tuned. Really glad that we got rid of the last guy. Just had to say that for the record. He knows. I do want to talk about data centers though. Y'all, this is so serious. I think this is maybe the biggest issue that we're going to face, I don't know, in the next 20 years in our county. I absolutely cannot even imagine the largest data center in the state being built in my beautiful rural district. It is so appalling to me that anybody would think that that's an appropriate location to build an industrial park. I don't know if any of you have ever driven on 152, but that's not the location for more cars. We're absolutely maxed out. We're done. We don't want it, we don't need it, do not bring it. So what I would like to see, and I don't want to blow your minds, but I would like to see a withdrawal of Mr. Bennett's bill. I would like to see the ban put in place as an emergency piece of legislation. You might know that we do that all the time in Annapolis, and usually it's not actually an emergency. This is an emergency. It deserves to be emergency legislation. The day that you vote on it, the day that you sign it, is the day it goes into effect. We don't need to wait or delay or have overlapping bills. We need one bill, we need a full ban, and it needs to be emergency legislation. You can do it immediately. And I would encourage any other county who might tune into this to do the exact same thing, because we don't need these properties being eaten up by giant industrial parks and loud, noisy, environmentally damaging data centers. We're not going to do it, and I appreciate all of those who back up this issue and support this issue. And with that, I will return the rest of my time because I know how hard it is to do this job. God bless.
Thank you. Good evening, sir. Name and zip.
Good evening, Brian Tawney, 21085 with Our Land, Our Home, Our Harford. So it's kind of hard to follow up Lauren. She did a great job. We would obviously second that for the emergency legislation for the effective date to be immediate. What I really wanted to do tonight, though, is express some feedback regarding the council's power and their ability to act when it comes to a ban for data centers. One of the encouraging things we saw early on in this battle, which has really only been going on for probably the past month, is some reticence or hesitation by the council regarding a full ban. That's why I think initially we were talking about a moratorium. We have retained legal counsel Michael McCann, who's pretty well known in the zoning and land use areas. He's a very, very well-established attorney. I'm an attorney myself. So what I thought I would do is share with the crowd here and also put in the record the letter that Mr. McCann sent to the council earlier today regarding simply the county council's legal authority to pass a ban as proposed by the county executive. The office represents Our Land, Our Home, Our Harford, a grassroots organization that in just a few short weeks has gathered thousands of supporters in its opposition to the proposed data center at Mountain Branch Golf Course. We fully support the county executive's proposal to ban data centers outright in Harford County. We share Mr. Castley's concerns regarding the many potential impacts of data centers and also share his belief that a temporary moratorium, as proposed in Bill 26005, will simply have the effect of creating a legislative pathway for such centers. We disagree respectfully that the regulations for data centers uses are needed. That was the justification for the moratorium, potentially. I also wanted to express that there should be no question that County Council has the legal authority to pass the ban proposed by the county executive. As you know, the Express Powers Act grants Harford County the authority to enact local laws relating to the zoning and planning in order to protect and promote public safety, health, and welfare. Maryland Code annotated, Local Government Sections 10206A, 10324A1. Indeed, it is the formal policy of the state that comprehensive zoning and planning controls are to be implemented by the local governments, and that in order to achieve the public purposes served by such controls, it may be necessary to displace or limit economic competition. As such, we second Lauren's comments to withdraw. We urge you to withdraw Bill 26005 and support the county executive's proposal. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Folks, if I may, we don't allow applause. I let it go for a while. Let's just stop and we'll get through our comments. We understand.
Why'd you have to say that right before mine? One more.
Oh, Brian, we're going to stop it now.
What the heck? It's the moment I've been waiting for.
Is this Brian with a Y or Brian with an I?
Brian with a Y.
All right. Go ahead, sir.
Let's just be completely honest when discussing why the data center developers in this gold rush, speed to market industrial boom want to come into our communities and our county. For them, in their eyes, it's the path of least resistance. And the one impact they never discuss or address is the impact on the homes and the families. I've met hundreds of families in the last couple of weeks, but tonight I wanted to share with you about one particular family. Several months ago, an older home on Stockton Road was recently purchased by a young family. As I was knocking on doors one afternoon to raise awareness, I decided to stop by to visit this new neighbor. I rang the doorbell, and a young man who was working in the backyard came walking around the house. He introduced himself as Josh. I introduced myself, and I asked him if he had heard about the proposed data center project possibly going in his backyard. His new home backs up the Mountain Branch Golf Course. He told me he had no idea, and with a concerned look on his face, he asked, "What's so wrong with data centers?" He had no idea. I simply told him some of the facts, and I encouraged him to do some digging on his own, but to keep in touch with me. He was frustrated about the possibilities, and to be honest, I felt guilty for ruining his day and his weekend. He proceeded to tell me that he was frustrated because in the last season of his life, he got married. He's been working his ass off to finally save up enough money to move from the city and purchase some land and a home in the county where he can start to raise a family in a clean, healthy environment. The next day, I drove by that family's home. For the next week, I drove by that family's home. There was a large sign in the front yard. And no, it wasn't an Imhoff sign or a Stephanie Flash sign. It wasn't a Vincenti sign or a Bob Castley sign. No, this man had other issues that he was concerned about. The sign simply said in large pink letters across the front yard, "It's a girl." That family is exactly who we're fighting for in this battle. And that family is exactly who, as our elected officials, you are working for. And we pray that you will do the right thing and consider the next generation and vote to keep these toxic data centers out of our county. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Brian.
Michael Oakes, followed by Jessica Riley Hammond and Diane Sadowski.
Good evening, sir. Name and zip, please.
Michael Oakes, 21158. That's 2 counties over in Carroll. Carroll currently has a ban on data centers. I applaud all of you for your motions tonight. Lauren, I applaud you. I'll come down there and pat you on the back. I was going to talk as a citizen, which I am, but with 3 minutes, I want to talk to you as one of the leading candidates for Republican governor of Maryland. If you can hold off Wes Moore and his proposals, 45 data centers in Maryland currently, he wants to see 50 by election. Think about that. My position is, if I'm elected governor, data centers will cease to exist in Maryland. Everybody talks about water. When the bucket's dry and you see the bottom, then what? When you go to turn the switch on and you have no power, then what? But more importantly, I've done considerable research, and this is what data centers bring to you. Concentrated pollutants, 20% density when they clean their systems out. Those pollutants are biocides that kill algae and bacteria that are going to end up in your rivers and your lakes and your bay. And you know what happens when you have an algae bloom. We've all experienced that many times. The cleaning agents are corrosion inhibitors. Things like phosphates, nitrates, molybates, and azoles. These are all heavy metal materials that cause cancer, brain cancer, lung cancer, liver cancer, intestinal cancers, breast cancers. You are not going to be responsible for that unless you stand up against data centers. The heavy metals that are going to be included in all this are copper, zinc, and lead. This is not hyperbole. This is fact that you could look up in any search about the real downfall of data centers. The high total dissolved solids are salts and other contaminated materials that become very concentrated, and they go to your local treatment plant to try and filter some of these things out, and they can't filter all of them out, so you get 20% concentrated materials that go back into your water supply, and everybody here gets to drink from that water supply. So I guess I can't place enough emphasis on the bad things other than power and water that data centers are going to do. And if you want to think about it in a more serious term, think of Love Canal, New York. Is anybody familiar with that?
Mr. Oakes, please bring your comments to a close.
Okay. And also think about Hinckley, California.
Thank you.
You bet.
Good evening, ma'am. Name and zip.
Jessica Riley Hammond, 21015. Good evening. I didn't prepare any comments for this evening, but I just want it to be known that I absolutely support a ban on data centers. I mean, I'm not going to go over the science and the concerns because they've all been mentioned so many times already. And I debated whether I was even going to speak this evening because I knew so many people were going to be talking about the same subject with the same view. But I believe that we need to be in this for the long haul and not slow down the momentum, not stop speaking out, because this is going to take time and we need to be engaged through the entire process. I definitely support technology, but absolutely not at the expense of the health of our community members and our natural environment. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Oh, my gosh. Oh, there's Grandma.
What? Hey, listen, I got a new do for tonight, so.
Hey. Name and zip code, ma'am.
Diana Sadowski, 21047. Good evening, council members. I'm here tonight in strong support of the county executive's proposal to say no to data center campuses here in Harford County. You already know where I stand personally on this. This issue is bigger than politics. It's bigger than individual council members, developers, or negotiations behind closed doors. This is about protecting the character, environment, infrastructure, and future of our community. The people of Harford County have spoken clearly. Residents do not want massive industrial-scale data center campuses built on our farmlands, our green spaces, or near our neighborhoods. We moved here because Harford County is not Northern Virginia. We value open land, agriculture, natural resources, rural heritage, and quality of life. A moratorium is not enough. A moratorium simply delays the fight, and we have a fight. It kicks the can down the road and creates an opportunity for developers to regroup, negotiate, lobby harder, and eventually push these projects through piece by piece. Temporary legislation becomes a bargaining tool, and once the door is opened even slightly, it becomes harder and harder for residents to protect what we have left. Harford County should not become a testing ground for speculative development that benefits outside corporations more than the people who actually live here. We've seen this happen in other communities. Promises are made about tax revenue, technology investment, but residents are left with enormous power demands, strain on infrastructure, industrial noise, environmental impacts, and permanent changes to the landscape. What our community needs right now is clarity and leadership, not political infighting. Residents are tired of watching elected officials argue with each other while developers circle our county looking for leverage points. This should not be about who gets credit politically. It should be about listening to the people who elect you or re-elect you. The county executive has taken a clear position. No data campuses in Harford County. I urge this council to stand with the residents and support strong, definitive legislation, no legislation, that protects our farmland, preserves our green spaces, and prevents these industrial projects from taking root here. Please do not settle for delays, compromises, or half measures that leave that door open later. Listen to your community.
Please bring your comments to a close.
Protect Harford County before it's too late.
Thank you.
Christine Heisey, followed by Garner Liddy and Bill Montanari.
Good evening, ma'am. Name and zip.
Christine Heisey, 21047. I'm here about the data centers like so many other people. I'm glad that you are taking some steps to make some better decisions about this, and I hope that you will listen to the residents of Harford County who definitely do not want this here. I've lived here for 64 years. I grew up here. It's a beautiful county. There was a lot more farmland, and we've watched developments go from here to there and back again. We've watched industry come in. We've given up much of the coastline, which is really, really sad. And now, here we are looking at a data center over Mountain Branch, which is one of the most gorgeous areas in the county. Just some of the things, because maybe people watching may not know some of this. A data center is about the size of 27 professional football fields strung and linked together. They are not a warehouse. maybe they're the size of about 42 Walmart supercenters, all joined together. They are massive in scale. Interiors have low ceilings. They say they bring jobs, on average, maybe 20 people. They have cleaners, they have security, and they have a handful of IT people to manage them inside. They do bring jobs during the construction, but beyond that, it's basically a wasteland. They use massive amounts of power. I don't have numbers on that. They take up about 500 to 1,000 acres. Water usage. An average person uses 70 gallons a day of water. I think that's kind of a lot. A data center uses 14.5 billion gallons of water. It's a lot.
Excuse me just a minute. Ms. Aledji, if I have to call him down one more time, whoever, and I understand your concerns, but we gotta keep the proper decorum in this chamber. We have one lady recognized to speak, not anybody in the audience. Ma'am.
Thank you. From what I understand, the county would get give the developer significant tax breaks being paid out over 20 years. They say there's no tax implications to residents, but that typically is not the way that works. Electricity-wise, they use massive amounts of electricity, which we really are not in a position to be able to sustain that. As far as future projections go for data centers overall, currently there's a huge push for us not only to use AI, but for the construction of the data centers. And as we've seen year after year with anything that has this type of push, it falls off. You know, we have malls that are empty. We saw Rite Aid go through a tremendous expansion and then just collapse. So where is this going to go, and what do you do with it at the end of that 20 years when we may or may not even need it? Because technology will change, the needs will change, and then you've got this huge building that has just totally wiped out whatever that beautiful area happened to be. I just have a little bit more here. As far as the actual environment, people in Loudoun County who live near them fight them tooth and nail. They're ugly, they're bright buildings, they're big, they're lit up, there is a constant humming. From the real estate standpoint, as I'm a realtor, nobody's gonna want to live near it, and you're gonna watch an exodus from the county. I do have some pictures for you, if I could hand them off.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Good evening, sir. Name and zip.
Good evening. Garner Lighty, 21047. Thank you for having us tonight. I just want to thank everybody for coming out. My brothers and sisters of Harford County. Feels good. I want to echo Mr. Brown said. I thought that was pertinent. Lauren did a great job. And Brian with his neighbor Josh. Josh was us 30 years ago. We struggled to find a house within our price range in Harford County. And it was intentional because of what this county offers. It's the green space, the land, everything about it, the people. We couldn't have asked for a better place to have our children grow up. And this is in direct contrast to everything that we expected that this county would provide us. I'm not against technology. I've been in the technology field all my life. But this seems very disconnected from what Harford County, specifically that part of Harford County, represents. This doesn't feel like a partnership. It feels like exploitation. Exploitation of our land and our resources, all for the benefit of a very select few people. Nobody in this room for sure. The question isn't, can it be built here? But is this what we choose to become? Because if we allow this, then this sets the precedent for future developers, future industry, to then pick every part of this county apart. And that's not what anybody wants. So, putting through the ban, not just a moratorium, putting a lid on a jar that can be broken by the state if necessary, doesn't seem like enough. It needs to be, your analogy is great, but there's weaknesses to that jar. And we need to put that ban in place. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Bill
Good evening, sir.
Montanari. Go ahead.
You're good.
Thank you. Bill Montanari, 21015. There's a lot of very smart, very eloquent speakers here tonight that made a lot of really great points. I'd like to thank Lauren in particular for stealing my thunder and making my point before I got to make my point. But she is absolutely, totally correct. Providing a moratorium leaves nothing more than an ability to stick a foot in the door. You need a total ban. You need to sign, as she said, an emergency legislation and get what the county executive is asking for. That's what we need. A lot of great points were made. I'm not going to take a lot of time up to reiterate them because they were great and there's no use in going back over it. I would like to offer one slight perspective to all of you sitting up there. I've been a student of history since I've been the age of 12. And a lot of times in history, things that seem everyday or mundane, but even this is not mundane, but fairly large, end up becoming what becomes that person's legacy. In my opinion, for all of you, this is a legacy moment. I'd like you to think about that. This could be your legacy in what and how people remember you in the future of this county. Do the right thing. You know what it is and you're saying it. Get some emergency legislation, get this thing passed, lock it down. Airtight, can't be done, period, full stop. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Joe Xavier, followed by Evelyn Bischoff and Reed Newbaum.
Good evening, sir. Name and zip?
Joe Xavier, 21047, I live about 3.5 miles away from Brian and Brian. And just want to kind of look at this with a word of caution. I mean, even if the data centers can fulfill their promise on what they talked about in terms of the water, the energy, and the emissions and all that sort of thing, the location itself is still the wrong location. Mountain Branch location is the wrong location for that data center or for any data center. So without taking up any more time, I just want to say that it's a wrong location. Even if it was the perfect data center and met all of those different requirements, it's still a wrong location. Also, wanted to ask just a question. I'm not sure if anyone has an answer for it. I know there's been some movement to have the Army's Data Operations Command put in Aberdeen Proving Grounds, and just was wondering if a ban would impact that location. But that is all. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Good evening, ma'am. Name and zip?
My name is Evelyn Bischoff, and I'm in zip code 21047. I am here to talk to you guys today about all of our concerns and to just introduce myself. My name is Evelyn Bischoff. My family moved to Foston 11 years ago to a house built in 1973. We moved to Harford County to raise our kids in a close-knit community with plenty of open space and rural areas. My community members care deeply for one another and what is best for everyone, not just one. Allowing these mega centers to be built will destroy the very reason so many people love it here. Our rural agricultural heritage deserves better. It
Ma'am.
deserves our time
Ma'am.
to take pause,
Ma'am.
ask questions.
That's your phone, right?
Yes.
Okay, they're checking, they weren't sure.
So just to let everybody know, that's the sound that people live with in data centers.
Got it.
Just for anyone that doesn't know that. So I know you probably struggled to hear me. That's what you would have to live next to every single day, 24/7.
You just had the TV crew a little
Okay.
messed up.
So our agricultural heritage deserves our time to take pause, to ask the questions, and wait until we have the right answers. Because this is not a NIMBY issue, it's a NIBY issue, which is not in anyone's backyard. No one should have their neighborhood destroyed due to the insatiable greed of developers and corporations that would never live next to the very projects that they propose. We have a responsibility to protect our own way of life, peace of mind, sanctity of land. Data centers need more water, power, and land, yet we are being asked to conserve water, power, and land. So why do we need 5,000 and growing more data centers than any other country? Likewise, we are being asked to pay our share of taxes while these corporations receive hundreds of millions of tax breaks. Is this fair? The IEA projects global data centers could reach the 945 terawatt hours by 2030. That is more than Japan's current electrical use. On May 4th, 2026, the North American Electric Reliability Corporation issued a rare level 3 alert due to large electrical loads. This is a grid watchdog sounding the alarm. We need to pay attention. Our water, who fills the closed loop? Where does the water come from? Who pays for it? How much power is needed to get it? There's indirect water consumption to think about as well. On gas, who pays to run the lines? And who decides where they run through? On noise, I have not seen a single solution to how this issue is resolved. How do we decide how close is too close? How long can a person, dog, horse, or other living thing be exposed to the constant barrage of noise without protection from said attack? At the end of the day, the main question is, would you be willing to have this in your backyard? That's it.
Thank you, Mary. Good evening, sir. Name and zip.
Good evening. I'm Dr. Reed Newbaum, 21085. So I'm a healthcare provider and a small business owner right here in Harford County. I'm actually not so different. Hey, I'm not. I'm not so different than Josh over on Stockton Road. Apparently, I drive by. I didn't know his name was Josh, but my family and I live less than a half a mile away from Mountain Branch Golf Course. And that's really what brought me here in the first place. But the more I've learned, the more my concerns have expanded beyond one project or one location. I've dedicated my life to helping people live happier, healthier lives. A core belief of mine is that health is the priority. Without your health, you really don't have anything. So there are lots of concerns being discussed, but before we get lost in the details, I think we all need to ask ourselves a simple question: what should come first in these conversations? And from what I've seen so far, and I'm talking in the DCA special presentation, the released developers documents, and a lot of the discussion, I mean, even the public and the council after those things as we're getting more information, the conversation seems to be beginning with infrastructure and economics. Of course, people are concerned about the health aspects, but I think that how we're starting, or how the conversations have started so far, are a bit backwards. Health and environment need to come first. Those two are so deeply connected, and then we can talk about infrastructure. Not that that's an unimportant part, but, and I'm not standing here either claiming that we already know every impact these facilities may have, but There are enough credible questions and foreseeable risks in health and environment that would justify a ban. The noise issue, that gets understated as a nuisance, but it really is a health issue. When noise is constant, especially overnight, it interferes with sleep, increases stress, and over time affects your health and quality of life. An interesting thing I found on some of the developer materials, they're proposing a dBA limit, different for daytime and nighttime. Now, dBA measurements do not fully capture the frequency of sound that these places make. Lower frequency sound travels farther, is harder to block, and can still affect people inside their homes. I'm talking in your bedroom, and that's how it affects your sleep. You might not even be aware of the sound itself. It's below human hearing, some of it, and what you hear inside your room is actually the walls and windows shaking, vibrating, actually making audible noise. But the problem is, and that's why so many other communities near large data centers have reported sleep disruption even miles away. So, I mean, I have concerns about air pollution, water usage, water quality, but of course my time is limited here. But I guess I just propose a health first framework when everyone thinks about this. If health is not the priority, then all of the economic growth is really the price tag on our health. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Jackie Johnson, followed by Linda Stein Flint and Christopher Blocker.
Good evening, ma'am. Name and zip?
Jackie Johnson, 21087. Wow, we have a lot going on here. Harford County is a beautiful place with its farmlands, open spaces, parks, and fresh air. A great place to live and raise a family, and even plant a vegetable garden, and just have a little piece of heaven. But apparently there are some who don't want us to have that. Someone on the council invited the Data Center Alliance representatives to speak at the April 14th meeting. It appears the whole script for the meeting was planned. This was made obvious when Councilman Bennett immediately proceeded to put forward a 90-day moratorium on the data center. Since the presentation, we have all researched data centers and found them to be harmful to humans, animals, farms, land, water, and air, everything that sustains life. Why aren't the globalists pushing back against these data centers for the heat they produce? Harford County communities have united together to fight against data centers, not just at Mountain Branch, but throughout the entire county. So once the emails, posts, and phone calls started coming in to the council from residents pushing back, the council changed their stance on the data centers and all stated, "I'm against them." Was it just a reluctant agreement to appease all of us, knowing you could lose the upcoming election if you continued to push for them? Tonight, I come before you, standing united with the community members, to request that you withdraw the moratorium and just ask you to say no to the data centers in Harford County. This is your opportunity to be honest and keep your word that you truly are against the data centers. This situation has brought people from all walks, backgrounds, and zip codes together, Democrats, Republicans, and independents. No one asks or cares which party each of us support. We only care who is working with us and for us in this fight.
Good evening, ma'am. Name and zip?
Hi, my name is Linda Stein Flint. I'm 21015. I find it interesting how many of you all still continue to deny that the Harford Transportation Plan is actually about the Harford Transit Link facility replacement being done with federal funds. The building has a leaking roof, mold, and can't properly service all the blue community public buses. Council President has fully agreed in the past with it for the several years, and yet him and those who continue with him, they continue to send us all these mailers saying no to a $65 million bus expansion. Come on, stop the misinformation. There is no mass transit being pushed. It is not bringing in outside people from Baltimore to Harford County. This is for the replacement of the facility that is on Abingdon Road, the same facility used by the blue buses that get citizens without transportation to the grocery stores, medical appointments, jobs, schools, and public facilities. There is no costly expansion threatening the character of our community and burning taxpayers. That misinformation sent out to our community is doing a big disservice to our county citizens who rely on that community public transportation. Everyone is also claiming to stand with law enforcement and public safety. I do not know of any Harford County Republican elected official or candidate at any level that does not support law enforcement and public safety. They all do. But it is difficult when you have current law enforcement who refuses to work together for what is best for Harford County, and all of you tend to condone that behavior. That is not leadership. That's bullying and causing unnecessary division. I'm happy that you supported Tony. It takes real leadership to stand up and introduce that to have Bantam nominated to the school board and to have that happen tonight. There is no previous record of making sure it's on the agenda by Thursday because Tuesday, February 3rd, County Executive Castelli announced the nomination of Liliana to the school board. And at 2 p.m. that afternoon, you updated the agenda to have it on the county council meeting that night. So there is room for modification of your rules depending on the thing. So, but thank you, Tony. I appreciate that for taking care of our school board. But I also have to laugh when I read about collaboration over division, real leadership protecting what matters most. Yeah, what matters most in these flyers is sending misinformation. The same people pushing for a moratorium on data centers and to extend the timeline to get through the election, instead of putting a dead stop to it, like the bill that County Executive Castelli that actually says no data centers. He stood strong and he's taken leadership. We say no to the growing number of data centers, of solar farms that do nothing to fix our electric issues that have been caused by the state closing down our power plants and buying electricity from other states. Harford County says no to data centers and no to solar farms. Instead of that moratorium, which merely delays things, just put County Council's bill through and stop it next week. There is no reason to delay that. Thank you.
Good
Hi.
evening, sir. Name is it?
Christopher Blocker, zip code's 21085. So I'm speaking about the data centers, or the AI campus, as the super rich guys over at Mountain Branch would have us call it. I'll talk a little more about that in a moment. But so yeah, I don't want to talk about why data centers are bad or why AI is bad. I'm actually very impressed by the amount of knowledge that everybody here has about data centers. But I think at this point we all know how bad they are. And it is frustrating, the AI stuff. As a college instructor, I have students that are writing papers with AI, and that really bums me out. But what I want to talk about is really about who gets to make important decisions that affect all of us. If you visit HarfordEnergy.com, you will find a website launched by the owners of Mountain Branch, the Vasilikopouloses, likely with the help of a strategic communications firm, given its impressive breadth and depth. It's the best website money can buy. The purpose of the website is to convince us that building a data center at Mountain Branch Golf Course is in our best interests. It is full of many claims meant to counter the narrative that data centers are destructive. But I would urge anyone who opposes the data center to ignore these claims and instead focus on what big tech and the owners of Mountain Branch stand to gain and what we stand to lose. Not just in terms of the data center itself, but in terms of our dignity. The website is full of insultingly, almost comically deceptive language, meant to placate a public that is frankly outraged. The first absurd claim is this: every major technical decision was designed to protect the residents who live here. It seems as if they would have us believe that they're doing this deal which will make them millions out of the goodness of their hearts, like a charity project. How incredibly kind. Let's not forget the one decision that wasn't made to protect the residents that live here: the decision to build the data center. And let's not forget the reason why that decision was made: money. Lots and lots of money. If you peruse the website uncritically, you would almost believe that the Vasilikopolises are planning to build a community garden, an orchard, an organic dairy farm. The data center is described as a locally owned AI campus designed from the ground up in Harford County with the strictest environmental protections in Maryland and real recorded community benefits. Make no mistake, these people do not care about us. If they cared about us, they would not be building a data center. The matter is that simple. So here's what we can do. We could hire our own DC marketing firm to argue with them claim by claim. Or we can exercise our right as citizens of Harford County to say hell no to a deal that we already know is bad for us. At bottom, this is about our right to determine our own fate. If this data center is built, it will not only degrade the quality of life in very visceral ways for many people living here, it will degrade our dignity. It would be proof that democracy in Harford County is dead. That country club owners and big tech make all the decisions, and you and I have to live with the consequences. No data center, not here, not ever. That's the beginning and the end of the matter.
There are no more speakers, Mr. President.
Man, we were on a roll, too. Agenda number 16, business from council members. Ms. Imhoff.
Good evening. Number one, I want to actually just say thank you. I know there's a lot of first-timers in the audience tonight. This is how democracy happens. Unfortunately, it doesn't normally have to get to a point where people are super concerned and upset and feeling not heard to show up. But we rarely fill most rows in this chambers. And so for anyone who's here for a first time, I hope it's not your last. As many of you heard, we are moving forward with making sure that data centers are not in Harford County. I know everyone has already had their speeches prepared, but there's very few things that can get all of us in agreement, and we agree with you all that this is not the place for data centers. With that being said, this is the part where we typically share the events that we've attended, upcoming community events, to get you guys even more involved, know that what we're up to, that kind of thing. So the biggest event that I went to this past week was on May 11th. I had the honor of attending the National Police Week Police Unity Tour. It arrived at the Harford County Sheriff's Office Southern Precinct, followed by a wreath-laying ceremony honoring law enforcement officers who made the ultimate sacrifice in the line of duty. There are many, many chapters to this Police Unity Tour. The one that comes through here is their 9th chapter, which starts in Philly, and they ride over 100 miles on their bicycles down to DC. And this is to honor those of our officers who we've lost in the line of duty. What's really hard but heartwarming is 2 of the riders this year are 2 of our fallen officers' kids. One is a Harford County Sheriff's officer, and one who is very, very close with the Harford County Sheriff's Office, and they take very good care of her. But it is a full cycle moment that no one wants to have. But it was remarkable. And so if you guys get a chance to follow them online, they do come through every year. So if you got stuck in traffic on, I think it was Monday. Yeah, we apologize, but we promise it was for a real, real good cause. And these bikers who are not daily athletes are literally biking from Philly to DC, so please be patient with them. Upcoming events, just a reminder that next Abingdon Emerton Community Advisory Board meeting will take place Thursday, May 14th at 6:30 at the Abingdon Fire Company. Also, the Abingdon Fire Company will be hosting the annual flea market this Saturday, May 16th from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. This year's event will feature more than 25 vendors and is always a great opportunity for community members to come together, shop local, and support our volunteer fire companies. And that's all I have for tonight.
Thank you, Ms. Imhoff. Mr. James Jordan.
Thank you, Council President. So it's not just the data centers, it's the power lines that we've been fighting Most of you guys don't know, but we've been fighting these power lines. If you look around, you'll see that they're expanding or trying to expand these power lines so they could run more power lines, so that they run them from Pennsylvania down to Virginia to fuel these data centers. So we fought with the BG&E and everything. I know we've sent letters and everything trying to stop that. Now in comes the data centers. And there is a website called cleanview.co, and it shows you the existing data centers, and it shows you the proposed data centers that is just like this orange glob all over the country. So, you know, we've lost power plants. Everybody here who gets electricity, you've all seen your electrical bills go through the roof. Brandon Shores, you know, was supposed to close, and they have to keep it open, so they're charging us more for that. We've got less power plants. I know Lauren down there, they've been fighting this and this green energy, which the solar is not working. Years ago, we fought to not allow the solar farms to be put in. There was one off of 136. We fought it. We denied it. We closed it down. They went to the PSC commission, and they built it. Much to our chagrin, you know, wasn't good. So these data centers, and one of the questions I asked, because I talked to a lawyer that did 2 of these data centers down in Virginia, was the noise level. The lady here said only 500 feet. They had told me it was 6 miles that you can hear that and the hum. What I'm also worried about is not only the people that live around here, but what about all the animals that, you know, the farms and everything, and on our food supply that we buy local, we say buy local. That's got to affect them as well. So just to know, we all are fighting. We all live here. You know, we all work here, play here. We don't want them either. So, you know, hopefully this ban stays in put, and the governor doesn't try to change anything on us. So I heard somebody say he wants to have more data centers, or we don't want them. So anyway, Saturday and Sunday Spring Nationals. Anybody ever see a hydroplane boat race? They're going to have them down at Flying Point Marina. It's going to be a great event. Saturday and Sunday, free admission, music, food trucks. Also, Sunday's the Taste of Harford, Vegan Matter. And then, if anybody hasn't been, the 250 tour is over at the American Legion. It's phenomenal. If you didn't get a chance to go over there, it's going to be there for a couple days. Go over and see that. And then finally, my charter amendment, the public hearing was scheduled for May 28th. So, 26th, sorry. May 26th. So hopefully, you know, you guys come fill the chamber, and the public gets to talk about that. And I think that might be it. So thank you very much.
That's not it.
That's not it.
No, your soapbox cars.
What?
Soapbox cars Sunday.
So, oh yeah, the Derby, the Bel Air Derby is on Saturday too. So it's a full slate of Sunday or Saturday?
Sunday, I think.
Sunday? Okay. We'll Google it.
Mr. Riley.
Tony, it's Tuesday.
Been a
I
busy
just have two things. We are not only fighting data centers, but also fighting the solar projects, as Tony said. And we have one on Chrome Hill Road. I'm doing the best I can, since it's in my district, to fight that project. I'm submitting letters to the Maryland Public Safety Commission. Also, I know, I appreciate Delegate Erickson coming here tonight. Appreciate you speaking with us. She's a great supporter of getting rid of these solar farms and data centers, and it's a privilege to have you tonight, Aaron.
Thank you, Mr. Riley. Mr. Bennett.
Hello, good evening. It's good to be with everyone. You know, in keeping the moratorium and the ban bill both on the agenda as of now, part of the point of that is preventing a single point of failure. You don't want anything to go wrong and then we have nothing. And I think that's an important point to consider. To the delegate's point she brought up during public comment, immediately after reading the bill, and you have to remember, we as a council first read the bill on Friday when it was shared with all of us after the agenda was set and published. I realized that the bill was not a piece of emergency legislation, which for those of you who've been around, 3 years ago when we handled warehouses, we made that bill a piece of emergency legislation so that it would take immediate effect. And one of the first things I did was reach out to Ms. Alleghi, our council attorney, and ask if we have a legal justification to do so, because that was a big concern of mine, that we would be leading into August without anything in place. So that's something that Ms. Alleghi is looking into, and something that I want you to know is not a gap in our minds. It's the very first thing that I noticed and the very first thing I asked for. And that's part of why I haven't withdrawn the moratorium, because I don't want to be in a point where we don't have an amendment saying it's a piece of emergency legislation, and then again, we're sitting till August with nothing on paper. And I think it's wonderful that every elected official and every candidate in Harford County, or who's ever touched Harford County, is saying they're against data centers, but I'm a believer in the only thing I stand by is what the law says. And if it's not on paper, it's not worth much. And it's important that we get what we can on paper to protect ourselves and protect our community. You know, it was reminded to me by a member of my community in my district, Chuck Mezan, that I first met with him and members of my district back in February of 2025 to talk about data centers and my concerns about the gap we had in our zoning with nothing about data centers there to protect ourselves. So this is something that I've been researching and working on now for well over a year. And it's something that I think is very important to protect ourselves from. That being said, I want to make sure to congratulate the winners of the Havre de Grace City election last week. Liz Clark and David Glenn are new to the council. Well, Mr. Glenn, Councilman Glenn, was there in the past. He took a break to take care of his family and is coming back. Ms. Clark, who serves on our Police Accountability Board for the county, is a wonderful person, and she previously ran and did not make it onto the city council, but she was able to win this time, and she's going to do a tremendous job. And then Casey Boyer was able to win re-election. I want to thank Tammy Lynch-Nagus for her many years on the council and supporting our community, and also Jimmy Ringsacker, who did not run for re-election and is choosing to step away as his son graduates from high school and is starting a new phase of life, for all he's done for the city of Havre de Grace. That's all I have this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett. Ms. Robert?
Thank you. I just wanted to echo about the data centers. I believe that they need to have a ban. I believe that it needs to occur sooner than later. But at the same time, to echo Councilman Bennett, it doesn't look like emergency legislation at this time, or at least it's not written in that fashion. For our section of District A, I've met with Gunpowder Valley Conservancy, and they deal a lot with the water, and I've been meeting with them because we have been dealing with the Days Cove issue, discharge, the permits, all of that affect our waterways. Also, with that comes Ridgely Reserve, in which that has been a continuous, short of a lack of a better term, hot mess, because that has not been corrected. And as much as the community has advocated for it to be corrected, it has not been corrected. The fines don't match up to the damage. And I continue to ask for more fines, and I get there's about 20,000 here, 20,000 there, but not as much as I've seen across the country where the developer has been fined over $500,000 for doing the same damage. So I'm going to continue to advocate for that area and for that, for Ridgely Reserve to be fixed as much as it can be. I too was at the police unity tour on Monday. Was it yesterday? God, it was yesterday.
Yep, yesterday.
And it was amazing and it was emotional. The bikers came riding in. They did travel from Philadelphia to us. They did 85 miles from Philadelphia to to Delaware, and then from Delaware to Aberdeen, they did from from Delaware to Aberdeen, they did 100 miles. And then they were traveling to Columbia And then Columbia, they were supposed to hit RFK today, where all the units met up together to travel to DC Mall. It was a very emotional experience, and I watched some of the riders come in while everyone was cheering, and tears were streaming down their eyes to get that much support from our law enforcement officers. And then today I got to attend the Academy of Finances ceremony for all the graduating seniors, and that is a great program. All of those children are set up for college and know what they want to do. And then where I was with Bangtum was Bike From Work Day that was at the Edgewood Public Library. And that's to celebrate riding bike, being environmentally friendly. And so that was today. Bangtum
She texted back.
thanks you all. She will be here next Tuesday. She did tell me she was in a meeting and then her phone started blowing up. So she figured it out. And then this weekend we have not only the Spring Nationals in our area, but we have the flotilla at the Gunpowder River, and that is at 9 a.m. at Mariner Point Park. And there also is, for the Spring Nationals, just so everyone's aware, there will be a shuttle bus because parking is at the local elementary and middle school. And that's it for me.
Thank you, Ms. Robert. 17, business from the president. It's a good feeling to see that we are all on the same page with the issues in front of us for the most part, with data centers for sure. Had a couple things I was going to mention, but it's kind of pales in comparison to some of the issues that we're looking at. But I will say, I will touch on the ARC Northern Chesapeake Regions Gala Friday evening. As you know, the ARC supports all of our citizens throughout Harford County with differing disabilities. And it is absolutely a great event, extremely well attended, over 400 in attendance, and they raised a tremendous amount of money that night. But in closing, Jeannie and I wish to express our deepest condolences to the families and friends of Fred Mitchell and Joe Paff, who both recently passed away. Joe Paff served as our Director of Parks and Recreation here in Harford County for 15 years. Prior to that, he worked in Baltimore County as a Director for Parks and Rec for 20-some years. And then after retiring from Parks and Rec here in Harford County, he served on the Cedar Lane Board of Directors. Fred Mitchell was a strong family member in Aberdeen area. He was a pillar of the community, served Rotary for over 50 years, never missed a meeting. Extremely well known in the farming and canning industry, strong member of Grove Presbyterian Church. And I would ask you to keep all of the friends and family with Mitchell and Paff in your thoughts and prayers. With that, we'll adjourn this meeting.